The living world. First of all, we should know what is living. Life is unique, complex organization of molecules that expresses itself through chemical reactions, which leads to growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation, and the reproduction. Further, what do you mean by the living beings? The objects. Living beings are the objects that exhibit growth, development, responsiveness, and other characteristics of the life. They have their own specific form and structure. Based on these characteristics, the living objects can be recognized as tree, herbs, shrubs, cattle, fungi, bacteria, etc. However, a specific shape, size, structure is also present in many non-living objects such as brick and rock. But no single trait of the life can be distinguished a living being from the non-living. Therefore, a number of traits are examined simultaneously to differentiate between the living beings. Further, there are the various characteristics of the living beings such as we have the cellular structure, metabolism, growth, consciousness, organization, energy, movements, homeostasis, variations, adaptations, lifespan, disposal of waste, healing, repair, death, etc. So first of all, the first characteristic of the living being is the cellular structure, and it is a defining property. Cellular structure is a defining property of all the living beings. Each living being is a complex entity which is formed of one or more cells. The cells are made up of the protoplasm, popularly called living matter. Composition of living matter is known, however, we have not able to create a protoplasm because of the lack of the organization of the myomolecules. Protoplasm and the cellular structure are absent in virus actually. The virus have the dual nature, they act as a living when they have the suitable host, compatible host, and when they don't find a compatible host, they become non-living. Second property is the metabolism. All the living organisms operate a network of thousands of chemical reactions inside them. So, the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in an organism due to specific interactions among different types of molecules within the interior of the cell is called metabolism. Metabolism is defining property of all the living beings. All activities of the organism including growth, movement, development, reproduction, responsiveness are just possible due to the metabolism. Metabolism further is of two types, anabolism and the catabolism. In the anabolism, which is a constructive metabolism, building up metabolism, it involves the synthesis of complex substances from the simpler ones. Here, the synthesis of the glucose by means of the photosynthesis, which is carried out by the producers, where they utilize carbon dioxide and water molecules to create the complex glucose molecule along with the release of the oxygen gas. Further, the catabolism is the breakdown reaction, also called as a destructive metabolism. It involves the breaking of the complex substances into the simpler one. Here, potential energy present in the complex substance is converted into the kinetic energy. For example, respiration is in which the glucose molecule is break down into the carbon dioxide, water, and most important, energy, which stored in the form of the ATP in the living cells. Cell grow by division. However, cell division is also the means of reproduction in them. In higher organisms, animal and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive as both are controlled by different physiological processes and often occur at different stages of life. Here, during the early stages of life, energy is mainly used for the growth, but after maturity, energy is directed towards the reproduction. The third property of the living characteristics of the living is the growth. It is the irreversible increase in the mass of the individual. A multicellular organism increases its mass by the cell division, whereas in the plants, the growth continues throughout the life cycle, as they have the meristematic areas where cell division occur regularly. But in animals, the growth occur up to a certain age. The growth and reproduction can occur together. Growth could be of two types, intussusception and the accretion. In the intussusception, living organisms show internal growth due to the addition of the minerals and the formation of cells inside the body only. Whereas in accretion, some non-living articles can increase in size like mountains, crystals, stones. It is due to the addition of similar materials to the outer surface. The growth producing substances in the living organism are the protoplasmic substances and the apoplasmic substances. In the protoplasmic substances, the living matter like cytoplasm and the nucleus, whereas in apoplasmic substances, non-living materials formed by the cell which become component of tissue. For example, cell wall, fiber of the connective tissue, matrix of bone and the cartilage. Next property or the characteristics of the living organism is the reproduction, formation of new individual of the same kind, which arises from the pre-existing life. Reproduction is not essential for the survival of individuals. It is required for the persistence of the population. This is the ability of the young ones to become mature. Reproduction is of two types, sexual and asexual. Sexual is biparental, whereas asexual is uniparental, which can be further categorized as binary fission, multiple fission, spore formation, regeneration, fragmentation. In unicellular organism, growth and reproduction are synonyms. Many do not reproduce, like mules, sterile workers, bee, infertile human couples. Therefore, reproduction. The next property is the consciousness. It is the awareness of the surrounding and response to the external stimuli. The external stimuli can be physical, chemical, and biological. The stimuli are perceived by the sense organs in the higher animals, like eyes, ear, nose. Plants do not possess such sophisticated sense organs. However, they do not respond to the external factors such as light, water, temperature, pollutants, and other microorganisms, etc. Photoperiod duration, which is the duration of daily exposure to light, influence the reproduction in those animals and the plants which breed during the particular season, which are the seasonal breeder actually. All organisms from the primitive prokaryotes to the most advanced and the complex eukaryotes are able to sense and respond to environmental factors. Organisms also handles chemicals entering their body. Human beings have an additional faculty of self-consciousness, means the awareness of self. Consciousness is said to be defining property of living organism. If a patient is lying in coma and is supported by the machine for the various function, self-consciousness and the consciousness to the external environment are supposed to be absent. Some of these patients never come back to the normal life. They can neither be called living or not non-living or dead. The next property is the organization. A living being has an organization, that is, the living being consists of several components and subcomponents which cooperates with one another for the well-being of the whole organism. A living being has a multiple level of organization. Each level of organization has its own properties which are not found in the constituents. A cellular organelle develop a property not focused in its interacting molecular component. A living cell has its own characteristics not found in the organelle. A tissue is able to have a trait not found in its constituent cells. Next property is the energy. The living being constantly require energy not only to perform various activities of the body but also to overcome entropy. Entropy, or you can say the tendency of randomness. The source of energy is food. It is required by every cell of the body. Next property is the homeostasis. Homeo means alike and stasis means standing. A favorable internal environment suitable for the functioning of body organs is present in every living being. It is quite different from external environment. Changes in the external environment do not have much impact on the internal environment, as the living beings have a self-regulated system to adjust and maintain the internal environment. The phenomenon is called homeostasis. Homeostasis is also present in each cell of the multicellular organism. It occurs in prokaryotes but not in the viruses. Next property is variations. Living beings possesses variations and have the ability to evolve with the. Next is adaptation, which is the useful inheritable variation or changes in the form, function and behavior which help an organism to adjust well and successfully in its environment. An organism is considered best adapted to an environment when it possesses inherited traits that enhances its survival and ability to reproduce in that environment. Adaptation allows the organism to overcome seasonal and other changes in the environment. The healing and repair. Living beings can repair or heal the broken or injured parts. Next problem then is the disposal of the waste. Waste generated by the living beings are regularly disposed of. Next is the movement. Living beings show movement of their parts. Some are able to move from one place to another place. This phenomenon is called locomotion. Movement of their parts. Some are able to move from one place to another place. This phenomenon is called locomotion. And lastly, we have the lifespan. Some are able Every living organism has a definite lifespan of birth, growth, maturity, senescence and death. Lastly, we have the death. Death is the stoppage of various life activities of the individual organism accompanied by increase in entropy. Death occurs due to the aging, disease, accident or predation. Aging normally occurs in all organisms after a period of reproductive maturity. It is however absent in some cases where organism multiplies by binary fission. For example, in amoeba and bacteria. A fully grown bacteria or amoeba divides into two daughter cells. In the process, it loses its independent existence. Here, natural death is absent, and the organism is immortal, or we can say the organism body get consumed during the process. Living organisms are therefore self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulatory interactive system capable of responding to the external stimuli, sharing a common genetic material to varying degree, both horizontally and vertically.